Well, hello. Bit of a random episode, if you like, random video today. I'm going to be looking at guitar stools. It's something that, when I'm at home or whatever, I was always like sitting on my desk chair in the office as well, or I'd have a drum stool, was something that I used quite a lot. So over the last few years, I've sort of started looking at what is the best available guitar stool, and I've narrowed it down to three, but they're three from the same brand. I'm going to show you them just now. So I have this one here, which is your kind of typical sort of bar stool setup, where it's set up at a height that's not adjustable in height. It does turn so far each way, maybe just a wee bit, I don't know what that would be, 30 degrees or something like that. And I've put a back on all of the stools. Now that's optional, and I think you can just get a round throne style. I've went for this saddle style, which you can see here has got the Roc-n-Soc logo, so it's called Roc-n-Soc, and I quite like this one. I feel that it's a good size, and it's probably a sort of default setup for me for practice. Now, why did I start looking at stools? I just felt that it was kind of more comfortable to find a position where you can sit up sort of straight. You've got a wee bit of support in your back, and you can sort of rest your leg at the right level. So this is the bar stool style. You can see the back, where the back goes on. This can adjust up and down, and it can also adjust out. The backrest can kind of come out a wee bit or push in a bit further. But in terms of any other adjustments, does nothing. That is that. The next one I'm going to look at is this one here, which I'll move into the middle. So this is got more of like a desk chair sort of set up in terms of the way the feet are configured. On this one, I've got casters. Now you can actually just add another thing to that, which is gliders, which is on the other one, which you'll be able to see here. If I'm in the studio working, I quite like this one because I can sort of jump from station to station if I'm on a MIDI keyboard or going back to the desk. I thought this one was pretty cool for that. I also added this foot ring, which is adjustable up and down, which you can see by just sort of pulling this wee part in. You can sort of adjust it up and down. And I've got a different height stem on these. One has a really high stem, not really high, but one has a higher stem, and this one has a lower stem. So this one can go this high as its maximum height, whereas this one can go higher again. So that goes even higher than the bar stool version. With the glide feet on, this goes up to about 32.5 inches, which is about 830 millimeters. The bar stool sits at about 29 inches or 740 millimeters, and this one with the casters on is about 700 millimeters and about 28 inches, so just slightly lower. That gives me three kind of different setups, I guess. Very rarely am I going to have this that high, to be honest. But what I quite liked about being able to bring the height up on this one is I can sort of mimic the height of this ring here and move that up to roughly the same height, which means I can essentially get that sort of bar stool seating position. But also, if I'm working away at the desk, I can drop this down, right down actually really pretty low, and this one goes right down to both feet are really comfortable on the ground. Again, we'll look at that and see if I can get even on this one now. I might need a set of ladders. They go down to roughly the same height within about an inch. And that height is... This one with the casters on goes down to 20 inches or about 500 millimeters. This one with the glide feet on goes to 22.5 inches or 570 millimeters. One thing that's against this rather than a standard drum stool, I guess, is that it's the portability. You couldn't really put this in and out your car all the time. It's not made to be taken apart. It's not really made for that. These are sort of made to be set up, and that's them. This one in the casters, the only thing I find with this is when I have it up at the height of, you know, around about its maximum height, and you're going to be working that way, as soon as you sit down, it does start sliding about a wee bit, as you can see, which isn't ideal. So I have got a set of glide feet for this, and I might change that at some point. But you can see it's pretty comfortable. So I quite like it at this height. I think this is actually nice. Microphone stand, you know, I could easily rehearse in this position. Right down at the bottom height, again, this is pretty comfortable as well. So if you've got pedals to deal with, you can sort of ignore the foot ring at that point because you probably won't need it. But you could still set that so you can have a leg resting like here and bring the foot ring down a little bit so that you're kind of maybe sitting about this height. So there's quite a bit of kind of adjustments that can be made to these, which I really like. The last one has got a slightly higher stem, giving me that ability to bring it a bit higher again. I don't know when I would need to be quite that high, because that is real high, especially for me. And it doesn't feel 100% perfect up there, but I think bringing it down a bit to about here, which is about heights with this, again, you could move that ring up. This one feels great. Now, I quite like the glide feet. Wasn't something I was sure of at first, but getting around it, it moves fine. What I will say is, when you're sitting on this one, you can't really move it about, which is a good thing if you don't want it sliding about, which I was experiencing with this one a little bit when it's higher. When it's lower, you can sort of get it about, but not easily. So that's where this one would come in. If you're going to be going about your, you know, going from station to station in your studio, then I would say that this one is probably the right one to go for, because the casters work. So this configuration works. Now you can get these in all sorts of different variations. There is different seats available. There's different fabric colours and things like that. If I had to choose one, I guess it would be this configuration with a slightly higher stem, the glide feet. I think that kind of gives you the best of both worlds, because I can sort of set it to the same height as this, exactly the same height as this. Again, I can control this ring by messing about with it to get it to the right height. And once I've got that ring at the same height, this essentially acts like this one. It's just as sturdy, with the added benefit that it does have a 360-degree rotation, whereas this only has a very small amount of rotation. Really, and there does seem to be, which we'll have a wee look at, there's like a ball bearing race in there. Now the reason it can't go all, I think it can go further round, but it's the back here, as you can see, hits off the leg. So you can see this part here hitting off. Unfortunately, that stops it spinning all the way around. So I guess if you never had the back on, it probably would go around a wee bit further. I think it maybe goes round at least 180 degrees anyway. So that's the stools. A bit of a random video, I know, because it's guitar stools and not everyone's going to be getting a dedicated stool for that. You could get by with just a standard drum stool. I just found they didn't go up very high, and when you did bring them up, especially the ones that you twist round, they became a bit unstable. There was nowhere to kind of rest your leg. So these sort of deal with that. And it wasn't that easy to find, to be fair. It wasn't like they were that well advertised. I sort of felt like I stumbled across it. I think I got the first one, which was this one here. And then I got the other two from, now let me get this right. If I get it wrong, I'll put it on the screen, but I think they're called Drum Centre. And they're down near Newcastle. And those guys were really helpful. Guy Darren I dealt with, he helped me order all the parts that I needed, and I had to wait for the distributor to bring the foot rings, especially. They had to come in from America. It took a wee bit of time. But it was worth the wait. There is other guitar stools out there, and I will probably look at more and come back to you on that. There's some that are sort of fold away and they have a footrest that goes up and down, and they look okay. They're sort of like a sort of triangle at the bottom. I think it's like Quick Lock do one, but I wasn't that excited when I looked at them, and I thought these just kind of look sturdier. And when I got one, like the bar stool version, I was like, yeah, this is kind of. And I've had Roc-n-Soc stools in the studio before for drums, and they're pretty sturdy and they feel really comfortable. And I thought, yeah, that's the way to go. And the fact that I could kind of, it was modular and I could add a back to it or not have a back on it, and it also kind of affects the price, because ultimately if you don't need a back, then you're saving that money. You know, if you don't want the foot ring, you're saving that money. Now I'm going to put on the screen now the prices that I paid for each of these and the individual upgrades. For the first stool, the bar stool version, this is what I paid, and then added the back on, and that added this much. Then for the second stool, which is the one with the casters, this is what I paid for that configuration, and I'm sure I added the back to that, and then the foot ring, and that'll give you an idea of the price of that. And then finally, the last one was pretty much the same, but with the longer stem. I don't know if that cost me anymore. Obviously, I had the foot ring upgrade. And then I think the casters or the glide feet were an additional cost, which I'll put on the screen if that's the case. So hopefully that helps. If you have any questions about the stools themselves, if I've not got into enough detail, please let me know in the comments. I'm a tiny channel. I've got probably, I think at this moment, I've just got just over 100 subscribers. So if you could subscribe, that would be amazing. I would really appreciate it. And I'll be back soon with some more random guitars, gadgets, and music gear videos. Thanks for watching this, and I'll see you all soon.